I tend to use odd terms at times. I will, for example, call the dark cloud over humanity the archon, as opposed to archons, the demiurge, or the many other names that might be used depending on which tradition you might believe in or have studied personally. I make my own definitions at times even, and this can be incredibly frustrating for some people. The thing is that I do this because I really do like to play with the edge of such definitions and such terms. I do really appreciate the fact that they can help to explain certain concepts or better yet techniques, but at the same time I do not like aspects of these definitions and the usual dogma that encompass them, because such terms always mean that these definitives of what something is or should be are completely interwoven with some kind of dogmatic tradition. This often means that many of those that participate in such theologies have stopped searching in a direct manner, and have instead begun to support, sometimes in a die-hard or even extremist way, what is believed, what is supposed to be complete and uncorruptible fact, by that particular dogmatic tradition that they are a part of. Let me explain this. But let me start by saying that I do not in any way feel that my terms are superior to others. I am not seeking self-important recognition. If I was, I would not go to such lengths to hide my general social identity. My terms are as flawed as any other. I am flawed, certainly from the point of view of the other. I am no better than anyone else. I am human, that is all that need be said. But what I mean by this term, and dogma problem, is that in accordance to the wave or current that I follow, there is a great deal of danger in getting stuck within the bounding walls of dogmatic understanding. By dogmatic understanding I mean the knowing that happens when people study a subject, read about a subject, commit the many aspects of a subject to memory, the many definitions and terms of a particular subject, but they have never directly tried to experience or experiment within the bounds of such a subject themselves. There is great danger, therefore, in becoming a kind of intellectual only, in what could be referred to as the occult sciences, in that there are many people that will know every term, and perhaps could quote directly every single thing that someone has ever written on a particular topic, but they have never themselves experienced to any great degree any of the things that they have studied and have committed to memory. In accordance to the wave that I follow, which I refer to as inner alchemy, in order to try to give a bit of understanding to something that is far more profound than just that simple term, I am always saying that anything that I write, anything that has any kind of dogmatic flavor to it, should be freely questioned in every way possible. I am not trying to teach any kind of dogmatic tradition, a new kind of gospel. What I am trying to show people is workable sets of techniques. I am trying to show people how to do certain things, and the most important things within that repertoire is the ability to perceive directly, to know directly, to see, which is something I have sometimes even referred to as the development of the inner feeling sense, which is not a term that I invented but one that I find to be very good at describing what I generally am trying to describe myself in my books and videos. It is those techniques, that energetic work, that inner work, that I am trying to describe to others, to my readers, and it is those things that are most important. And to that end, terms and dogmatic understanding are only important up to the point that they teach the basic foundational principles of certain techniques, with the final and most important goal being that, in time such practitioners are not only able to engage in those techniques, in that inner motion, but that they are also able to expand on those techniques and change them, even perhaps at a fundamental level, until they are comfortable with new techniques that are perfectly suited for them as individuals. This is a most important point here. My wave is the wave of the individual. It is the wave that is interested in individual growth, growth beyond all walls that exist within this three-dimensional cube that is boundary upon boundary and limitation. As such, we who ride the wave of inner alchemy are not interested in defending dogmatic points of view. We are not interested in being stuck behind the walls of one type of definition or terminal kind of terminological structure. Instead, we are interested in the ability to become free ourselves beyond all limitations, and this must include the ability to be able to perceive directly ourselves, to be able to perceive energy directly ourselves as it flows across the great dark sea. Without this there is nothing, there is only memorization and the walls of dogma. There are many different people that might question what I write about, or the techniques that I discuss in my books, website, and videos. All such questioning and all such opposition in any way are very healthy, because such diverse examination allows for more growth, and this is the way of all resistance really, being that resistance is from an energetic perspective a kind of impacting of one energy wave, that is one kind of vibration, against another, which creates a counter-oscillation. Two waves collide to create a new wave that may or may not have characteristics of the previous vibrations. This then becomes a new vibrational outbreak. But there are also those that question, not because they themselves are participating in inner action, not because they themselves are engaged in any kind of real work themselves, but because they are trying to expound dogma that is based on something that was created by others. In essence, they are interested in the propagation of hearsay material, being that they have not been able to do the things that they expound, but are only expounding what others have expounded before them, not because they know directly that something is right and true, but because an individual or a group in authority said so, and they have unquestionable faith in that authority. They are in essence defending an idea, a concept, a meme. This is groupthink, and it can be quite difficult and quite dangerous to free yourself from such bounding walls, especially in the metaphysical arena, and it is these walls that have in the past created incredible amounts of conflict within the occult community and the world at large. It is my hope that you do not defend mimetic dogma, but instead stand behind your own direct knowing and practice, and in that fashion incorporate your own work and personal experience with the wave of individuality and freedom that I am a part of, if that is what you personally desire. Such action will create new oscillations that will benefit each individual that follows. I hope that you will have patience with me sometimes then, when it comes to some of the terms that I am really forced to use, and that you will look beyond those terms that you might not agree with, or hierarchical orders that I may use that you might not believe exist the way that you believe that they might exist, or that you might believe do not exist at all, and that instead you try to focus on the technique and the inner work involved, until you can do the inner action yourself, that is if these techniques feel right to you, and in doing so discover your own truth, your own personal reality in accordance to the particular wave that you might be a part of. And during this whole process, question everything, endlessly. Perhaps then you might note that in the most interesting fashion, the particular wave or current that I follow, and the particular waves that are more in tune with my own energetic principles, are those that follow individualistic ideals that instead of creating more walls, break the walls of the mob down. In other words, in the most seemingly contradictory fashion possible, the wave that I follow, for example, is not a united wave of non-thinking individuals. It is not made up of a dogmatically aligned group of group thinkers. It is instead a wave made up of tightly bound and yet completely uncontrolled particles. That is, it is made up of individual units, each one completely free to choose and be in whatever fashion they wish to choose and be, at any one point in the many intensities that we refer to as time. My wave is a wave of seeming order within a most complex system. In such a wave or current then, individualities come together because every single individual particle is resonating in its own freely self-induced and knowledgeable, through direct perception, frequency. My wave is the wave of individuals, and at any one time that wave may scatter if enough such individuals choose a different frequency, meaning that they begin to oscillate at different vibrational parameters, which can happen at any point in space-time because they are in the most fundamental and essential possible manner, free, spontaneous individualities. Beyond this, it is most important that each one of these free individualities that resonates at a certain frequency, because they choose to do so through a process where they are able to perceive directly all the things that they are interested in perceiving. Meaning that, it is most important that each one of those particular particles that makes up this particular wave has the ability to perceive energy directly, and to be able to accept or reject any particular formally dogmatic principle or term, and in that sense create their own principles or terms in accordance to how they perceive any one particular aspect of energetic reality. If this is not possible, if such particles cannot perceive directly for themselves, then they cannot be part of this wave because they are not truly free. They are in essence particles caught within a dogmatic point of view in the end, which is really a kind of mob or groupthink reality, where all those that are participating in that particular gestalt or meme are quite simply non-individuals that serve the propagation of that dogma or accepted faith-based reality. Now, as I have said, this is the way of my tradition, and this is what I write about. As such, I make it always a point to describe technique first and foremost, and I try as best I can, sometimes not completely successfully, to stay away from dogmatic principles as much as I can, at least as much as I can get away with, in trying to describe certain principles using certain metaphors or models that might be suitable. But this again with the understanding that these models and these metaphors should be thrown out as quickly as possible, once the practitioner is able to perform the techniques freely. Direct energetic perception is perhaps the most important prerequisite of the tradition of inner alchemy, because it is the one principle by which we all escape from the bounding forces of dogma, and become free individuals that can break down the many walls to be found within this objective world. It is my hope that no matter what you might believe at any one time, that you begin to try to not just intellectually know those things that you know, but that you try to live and directly perceive those things on your own, free from anything that any one particular person or group has said about that particular thing in the past. It is believed, for example, by this way that I am a part of, that time as a linear event is an illusion, and that all time is actually existing at this moment point here now, and due to such an aspect of time and therefore energy, there is no past in the objective sense, in the rational sense that is believed to be so real in this moment point in history. As such, the past can be said to be in some ways a kind of illusion, at least the idea of such a past can be this kind of hypnotizing illusion. This then means that, in accordance to my tradition, and again only in accordance to this particular wave, there is no way to discover what really is, through looking back at what was written or expounded in the past. The only way to discover what is to perceive directly now, at every moment point, now. For the master inner alchemist there is no remembering. This is so because nothing needs to be remembered. What an inner alchemist needs to do is to perceive directly, and in doing so they perceive and know directly all that needs to be known. Now, what I just said is of course dogma. What I have just said is dogma in accordance to my own definition. It is hearsay knowledge that can only be accepted on faith. As such you may want to believe what I have just said or not. If you ask my opinion, I say don't believe or disbelieve. Instead use this information, this power, as I sometimes tell my readers to do in some of my books. Use it to perhaps give you a boost, an energetic boost to try to perceive directly yourself, as to whether what I'm saying is right or wrong, in accordance to your own direct perception, in accordance to your own personal seeing. In other words, prove me right or prove me wrong, but do it through your own personal direct perception, which can only be arrived at through direct and personal and individual inner action, and not through quoting some old tome, or some other opinion or terminology created by others. Thank you for all your kindness and patience throughout the years, as I try my best to not add too much more dogma to your dogma pile. If you would like to study some of the techniques that I write about, most importantly perhaps the techniques that lead to direct perception, the inner feeling sense as I like to call it on occasion, then I would recommend the books, The Way of the Projectionist, or the Magnum Opus. I will also leave a link to a free website article that you can look into if you want to know a little more about what I mean by direct perception. I will leave a link to the books and the website article in the video description below.